Am I the asshole for telling my sister she's ridiculous for divorcing her husband over a TikTok prank? My 24 male sister, 32 female, was married to a guy, 35 male, for 3 years until they separated 2 months ago over a TikTok prank he pulled. Although none of our family cares about social media, I've always thought of her husband as nice, funny man. It's great to be in his company, and I therefore think the divorce is ridiculous over something that was no more than a mistake. To give an account of what happened, my brother-in-law, who is involved in TikTok, pulled a prank on my sister's 15 male son. The prank culminated in my nephew falling over and banging his head, which is why she separated from him. He had to be rushed to the hospital where he underwent treatment, and now he has brain damage. He now needs help eating due to impaired motor control, has limited speech. If you ask him something, he'll stare at you until my sister gets on her knees to ask him calmly what he needs. He's easily irritable, and when I look at him, all I can see is his 7-year-old self masquerading in a 15-year-old's body. Now, these symptoms are likely permanent and are, of course, awful, but it was a mistake on behalf of the husband. I believe that divorce is way too harsh for a mistake, and instead they should have negotiated boundaries and disallowed TikTok in the house or something. Her husband was the only one who used it. I've tried to keep my dislike of the divorce decisions to myself because I'm secretly mourning the loss of my brother-in-law. We watched football together and everything. However, when discussing the incident with her yesterday, I told her that she was absolutely ridiculous for divorcing her husband over something that is essentially a mistake, and that she should reconsider her options, considering the first one was clearly emotionally driven. My sister told me that I'm free to marry him, and my mother also interjected, and despite liking my brother-in-law before, told me that I have no say in my sister's life, and told me that my precious brother-in-law ruined my nephew's life with his incompetence. I yelled at them and told them that society's inability to forgive mistakes is the reason why we're in this mess, and they eventually kicked me out when the argument ensued for 10 minutes longer. I thought I was being reasonable. However, my girlfriend is also on their side. Am I the asshole?
Am I the arsehole for fake sleeping all night to see if my wife's lying? Last couple of months, my wife had been complaining about our cats. Been complaining that they keep waking her up and that she has to keep getting up and opening the door for them. Or it's that the cats keep making noises or they keep jumping on her. And it had got to the point where she told me that she wanted me to get rid of them. And I said I'd never seen or heard any of what she was saying, but she claimed that I kept sleeping through it all. She kept saying that she was getting less and less sleep and started acting aggressive. She put the aggression down to her not sleeping and said that if I didn't get rid of them that she would end up leaving me. I had legitimately started to think about giving the cats to my sister before I noticed something. This one morning, she woke up and she claimed that she'd gotten up multiple times in the night to help out the cats. And she started to list like a bunch of times that she'd got up with the cats in the night, but I thought that was a little bit weird because I'd been awake since 4 a.m. and she claimed that she woke up at 1 a.m. to let the cats out to open the door, and then a couple of times around 3 because they were meowing loads and they kept jumping all over her. I was in the bedroom the whole entire night while she slept and things just weren't adding up, so I decided to run a test. So I waited till she was going to go to bed, I let the cats out of the room, and then I lowered my phone brightness as well. I then faked going to sleep and I just lay there for the entire night, just awake. I got so bored. And thankfully, I didn't fall asleep. I made sure to make timestamps on my phone on Discord just to make sure. And I was making sure to make timestamps every little noise that my cats made that night. So one of the cats jumped down from something and it made a little noise at about 3:18 a.m. And the other one ate food by the door, relatively quiet at about 4:18 a.m. Other than that, literally nothing happened. Sure enough, she slept from 11 p.m. till 9 a.m, but woke up saying that she'd been up at least 7 times in the night because of the cats. She said that she kept waking up to have to open the doors for the cats and that they kept jumping all over her. And I was so pissed because she was very clearly lying to me. I was just so exhausted and fed up with the lies that I bluntly called her out on it. I told her, well, that's funny because I stayed up all night last night to monitor the cats and they weren't even in the room most of the night either. I said, I have timestamps. Why have you been lying to me and trying to get me to get rid of my cats? And she just sat there quietly shaking and looking pissed. She then got up and left the room without answering. She then came back hours later but kept ignoring me whenever I talked to her. And then I finally asked her how I was the bad guy in this situation. Then she finally said that she felt like I treated her like a child by lying about being asleep and trying to catch her out in her lie. And that making timestamps as if I was an investigator was going too far. And she said that I was being an obsessive arsehole. And I only did it because she was threatening to get rid of the cats or she'd leave me. And her claims just weren't adding up. Am I the arsehole for telling my sister-in-law that nobody cares that she's pregnant? So my cousin, who we'll call Mary, lost her husband and 2 out of 3 of her children in a car crash. I'm sure you can imagine her and her other 5-year-old daughter are absolutely heartbroken. So anyway, today was the funeral and my brother's wife announced that she was pregnant the moment they walked in the door. And we were like, okay, congratulations, but please keep it on the down low for today. We arrived at the church, she kept making gagging sounds and then like rubbing her tummy saying, I can't imagine as a mum what she's going through. This was her first child, so she doesn't have kids already, so she would then take the opportunity to tell people that she was pregnant. Then afterwards at my aunt's house, my sister-in-law just kept making everything about her. Like if someone was in the bathroom, she'd be like, sorry, pregnant lady needs to pee. She legit told someone to give up their seat so that the lady with the baby could rest her feet. I ignored her all day. That was until she walked up to Mary, stuck out her flat belly and said, me and Isaac just found out we were pregnant and honestly, we are beside ourselves that this could happen to us. And at this point, quite rightly so, Mary broke down. And at that point, I snapped. Who even says that to a woman that has just lost 2 babies? I ended up saying loudly to my sister-in-law, no one gives an F that you're pregnant. I said, look around, it's not 1 but 2 babies' funerals, let alone the love of this woman's life. I knew you were an attention seeker, but you literally took the test 4 days ago, so you need to leave. She ended up leaving, but my brother did call me a fat bitter bitch. So my brother and her family ended up calling me a whole world of names afterwards and saying I was a horrible person because I made a pregnant woman cry. Mary and my aunt actually thanked me, but if I'm being really honest, I feel bad for making a scene. So please put me in my place if I'm wrong. But what do you think?
I, 32 male, asked my wife, 30 female, if we could open the relationship. She agreed, and I'm feeling upset because although she's bisexual, she's only sleeping with men. 32 male, and my wife is 30 female. After 5 years of marriage, I felt like she had given me all she had to offer. Now, please don't judge me for saying that. She just had a very low drive, and I have a higher one. I figured opening the relationship would help out marriage and help me get my needs met. She originally said no, but after I explained to her the benefits, she said yes after a few days of asking. She seemed both excited at the possibility of a threesome. Now, where the problem lies is that my wife is bisexual, and yet the only people she's been sleeping with have been men. When asked about this, she said she only sleeps with people she clicks with, and they just happen to be men. When I told her my feelings about this, she said it's only fair because I'm sleeping with other women. While true, it makes me wonder if she's truly bisexual. When I asked her to also sleep with women, or I'd want to close the marriage again, she rolled her eyes and said no. One of the guys I fear is trying to seriously date her. He brings her flowers and food, pays for her nails, and never even acknowledges me when he's over. I feel like she's dismissing my feelings, and I'm getting frustrated. I want to close our marriage again. How to approach this?
Am I wrong for calling a woman a psycho for leaving a Bluetooth tracker in my car after our first date? My 42 wife passed away 2 years ago and we've been together since 1999. I was so broken for a while and probably clinically depressed. I never sought any treatment, but I was just not okay. I've recently decided that I'm done being alone, so I asked my friends and family if they knew anyone I might want to get to know. I've never used online dating and I've only had 1 girlfriend before my wife, so I'm not exactly an expert. Well, my friend's wife said she knew a nice woman and I agreed to go on a double date with them and her. I thought everything went well and said I would like to see her again. We agreed to go to dinner and see Anastasia, and I picked her up at the apartment, and once again I had a nice time. There weren't fireworks or anything, but I was comfortable with her and she is physically attractive. I dropped her back at home afterwards and went over to see my sister. She insisted that I come over and talk about the date so she could guide me. Am I wrong for calling a woman a psycho for leaving a Bluetooth tracker in my car after our first date? I dropped my date back at her house and went over to see my sister. She insisted that I come over and talk about the date so she could guide me. She was best friends with my wife and we met through her, and she's become my protector since my wife died. So imagine my disbelief when I'm having tea with my sister and this car pulls into the driveway and it's the woman I was on the date with. I asked her how she found me and was kind of freaked out that she followed me. She then explains to me that she left an AirTag in my car so she could come over. My sister said that was super creepy, and if the sexes were reversed, the cops would be called. The woman tried to defend herself, saying I already knew where she lived, so it wasn't a big deal. I called her a psycho and asked her to please take the tracker out of my car, or I would call the cops. Now for the past few days, my friend's wife has been on my case, telling me I overreacted. She also said that I don't know what it's like out there for women dating in their 30s.